The presenting sponsor for OnEducation is Classcraft. You won't believe what Classcraft has in store for you at ISTE 2019. Stop by the Classcraft booth and complete the new AR experience to be entered in a drawing for a Nintendo Switch. Do you want twice the chance to win? Simply put us, OnEducation, as your referring friend on the form. To learn more about Classcraft, visit classcraft.com/OnEducation.
When it comes down to the work that happens, we got to start finding ways for people to stop thinking of schools as something they pay for and start thinking about schools as something they invest in.
All right, everyone, we are here with Jon Sanfelippo. Welcome to the show, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. We just heard you do the keynote, so you're here at USM Spark. But before that, if anyone doesn't know who you are, because you're pretty out there, but give us kind of the Jon Sanfelippo 101.
Yeah, well, I'm a superintendent in Northwest Wisconsin in the Fall Creek School District, home of the Fall Creek Crickets. Go Crickets! And we are a fantastic small school district, 850 kids in a K-12 building. Oh. Also 1,300 people in a village. So it's definitely the hub of the community. So being in a place where everybody knows and understands where we're all pushing in the same direction is really a good feeling.
Awesome, amazing. And so you're here at USM Spark. What did you talk about a little bit about what you talked about in the keynote, maybe?
I think the biggest thing that we need to understand about what happens in schools is that, well, first, the thing that we need to understand is that nobody's going to start changing the way they talk about schools until we change the way that we talk about schools. Sure. And I think we have too many people in the world that are saying that they're just, or they're only, I'm just a teacher, I'm only a this, I'm just a this, I'm only a that. And the more that they say that, the more that they devalue their work. But just as importantly, the more that they devalue the work to the person that they're talking to. And then when the person that they're talking to leaves that conversation, then, why would they change the way that they're talking about the work that we're doing if we're not going to change the way that we're talking about the work that we're doing? And so we talk a lot about the impact of being proud of the work versus defending the work. And the distinction there is when you're proud of the work, you're looking for some positive things to come back at you. When you're defending the work, you're waiting for something negative to happen because you're going to have to defend it again and again and again and again. And what happens when you're always defending the work is that you start avoiding conversations with people that you're going to have to defend the work to. And then when you avoid those conversations, you really fall victim to everybody else talking about the work that you're doing because we're not out there having the conversation. So I think that's a big part of what we do.
And that's a big part of the podcast, and it's basically making sure that our voices are being heard out there because there's so much other types of voices that basically detract or distract the conversation, push it in a completely different direction. So fantastic message, lots of energy in that keynote. My
cool.
goodness, you're bringing it.
So we were sitting here,
yes,
and you're in there, and I can hear every word you're saying.
Yes,
almost.
and it was amazing.
And I'm like, Joe, why are you yelling at me?
Yes.
But I get it completely because I get excited about stuff too, and I love the energy. You bring it hard.
Now we're trying, man. I think that's the part of it, though. But if you don't show any energy or enthusiasm for the work that you do, and then nobody else is going to. I mean, so I think I get really jacked up about the work because it's not my work. That's the best part. It's our work, and it's the work that our teachers are doing. Like, we have incredible people doing amazing things. I mean, we have people launching hot air balloons into space and creating middle school businesses and documentaries for for the village, and all this stuff is happening, and those voices need to be heard because I don't think they're heard enough. And so the more that we can do to get that word out, the better I think we're all going to be. And it provides an example for people. And the other thing that it does is it provides our staff with value in terms of the work that they're doing, because when they get calls from people all over the country saying, tell us more about the passion projects that you guys do with your professional growth model instead of professional development, tell us more about that. Then they feel like they have value because they created the whole thing from the ground up.
Yes.
It's just a different conversation.
Well, and energy breeds energy.
Totally.
And excitement breeds excitement. And, when you're sharing what you're doing, everyone wants to, learn from you. And so when everyone's doing that, everyone wins.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. I totally agree.
And that's what we're trying to do. What's going on in your life? What are you doing? What are you up to? What do you want to tell everyone about that's listening?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I get to be the superintendent in the best school district in the world with the most incredible people and a very supportive school board and an unbelievable group of kids. And so I get a chance to see them and work with them. And my administrative team is as good as you could possibly get. And they essentially run the whole thing, and we just try to give them license to do that. So that's the thing that we do on one side of the coin. The other side is I've had just a tremendous opportunity to go and speak to a number of groups across the country about the work that we're doing and the way that we can change the things that happen in school. And we talk about the impact of being intentional about all of our work, about opening doors for people so they see who we are, and then finally building each other up because we can't do this work alone. So I've had a great opportunity to do that and talk to a bunch of different principal groups and superintendent groups and tech groups and and just teachers in general. And next month in August, I'll do a lot of like welcome back to school things to try to get people excited about doing the work. And I just have a very supportive group of people that help me along the way. Most importantly, my family that does that. And I'm like just incredibly blessed to be able to have a family that's supportive of this. My wife, Andrea, and my 3 kids are just, Aiden, Kale, and Allie just love the opportunities that, to tell stories. So
Joe, if we usually have people give a message out to educators, but I'm thinking too that it would be nice to be able to pass a message on to our administrators. A lot of time I think they're misunderstood or whatever it might be. What message would you pass on to them, the listeners of the show here that are our admin, that are in charge of our teachers, of how to basically build them up, kind of like what you're doing with your school district?
Well, I think the first thing that we need to understand is that when people don't know what you do, they make up what you do. And, we always say that in the absence of knowledge, people tend to make up their own. Yes. And I think that's a big deal because they're going to talk about you. They're going to judge you on some level. And a lot of times they're judging you based on who held that position 25 years ago when they were in school. And that's not fair. At the same time, that you walk in with a target on your back when it comes to that work. So the first thing that I would tell people is, visibility breeds credibility in some capacity.
Sure,
that
it
means,
does.
When it comes to in hallways and online and that kind of thing, having a presence truly helps. The other thing that I would tell them is that when it comes down to the work that happens, we got to start finding ways for people to stop thinking of schools as something they pay for and start thinking about schools as something they invest in. Yeah. And people they're not going to invest in things that they don't know about, right? Yeah. You want to do the research and understand that you're making the investment. And a lot of times what ends up happening is, 80% of the voting public don't have kids in school. So when 80% of the voting public don't have kids in school, then they reflect on what happened to them when they were in school or when their kids were in school.
Sure.
And that's not the real narrative of what's happening. But until we start talking about what's going on, then we fall victim to every story that happened 25 years ago when they didn't get what they needed out of school.
Oh, just a fantastic message, man.
Thanks, man, for joining us.
Really appreciate it.
Joe Sanfelippo, everyone. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Go Crickets.
Do you have plans to attend the ISTE conference this summer? Come one day early and participate in the Best Hidden Gem conference in the United States. Badge Summit 2019 will take place on the Temple University campus in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on June 22nd. There will be lots of wicked smart educators to collaborate with on topics such as digital badges, credentials, gamification, and more. To learn more about Badge Summit, simply visit bit.ly/Badge Summit.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're here with the man, the myth, the legend, Jon Spike. Welcome, John.
It is phenomenal to be on the show, guys, as always.
Phenomenal is a phenomenal word.
Yeah, it really is.
It's one of my favorites. So tell everyone, if anyone hasn't heard, you've been on the podcast before. You are a returning guest.
Yeah.
And
you came back.
I did.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So we're not that bad. And so tell us who you are, what you do, if people haven't heard your episode before or don't know anything about you.
Yeah, my name is Jon Spike. I am a coordinator of instructional technology integration services.
Serious.
And if you add up the acronym, it spells out something interesting. You can listen to the Buffy EDU podcast for that one. I won't use the same joke. But I'm at University of Wisconsin Whitewater. In the College of Ed, and I work with pre-service educators to help them use technology in their future roles, teach courses. I like to always bring this up on your show because I know both of you are big game-based learning advocates. I teach a course called Video Games and Learning.
What an awesome life.
Yeah. I'm living the dream. Like, it's that life you carved out when you were 6 years old where you're telling your mom, like, this is going to pay off. Like, all these hours of Super Nintendo's going to pay off.
And she was like, get off that game now.
She was right about everything else, but I was right about the video games paying off.
Isn't that
end.
interesting? The time that we're in right now. I mean, how much that's turned around, and that is now we're living in that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, you got, I think it was the gentleman, he was CEO of Starbucks and then Symantec. Steven, I'm blanking on his last name, but he put World of Warcraft on his resume, talked about all the skills he learned.
100%.
Yeah, to be a CEO, managing his guild, managing their finances, recruiting talent. Like that's, I mean, they're transferable skills.
I wrote a paper on it.
Yeah.
I wrote what is that big fancy word? Autoethnography. So it's a fact.
what?
Autoethnography. It is a fact-based research paper, but based on your life, like your experience, something you have experienced talking about. So I wrote about being a guild leader and how there are transferable skills in education to leading a World of Warcraft guild and what that means in, as far as like the things that I've learned from that.
I was trying to think of what would be my transferable skills for being an expert at Galaga. Really quick finger
Hand-eye
trigger.
coordination.
Yeah, right.
100%. You could get out of a potential car accident very quickly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
You would swerve.
Gotcha.
So you're here at USM Spark with us, and so what are you up to here?
Yeah, so I'm actually, Chuck Taft, who puts it on, does a wonderful job. I've known him for many years. I met him through Michael Matera of Explore Like a Pirate fame.
Yes.
And I've actually been to all 5 Sparks. This is the 5-year anniversary.
Do you get a badge?
I want one.
Yeah.
I want one. I'm going to kind of hound Chuck for one. But what was kind of cool is I was a featured speaker, I think at the first or second, and Chuck said, John, hey, we want to return to our roots for the 5th anniversary. I want to bring you back as a featured. And I will do anything that man asks me to.
Sure.
I got a big man crush on Chuck Taft. And I don't care who knows it, including all your listeners.
It's the first time I've ever actually met him.
Yeah.
And just being around him is infectious, this kind of uplifting.
Yeah. He's awesome.
Hey, you would never know that he was actually running this whole thing because he's right there with you, asking you, what can we do for you? Which is what an amazing thing. Great.
And I mean, if you could see, like we took pictures on Twitter and put them on Twitter of our setup, like they've hooked us up pretty good here. Like this is one of our best setups we've ever
actually the quality of the recording here, though, it should be way different. We were just talking about that just because we get to set this whole thing up. I mean, if other conferences actually let you do this is what they should do for podcasts. Put us on a new plane.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you run a conference out there,
yes,
we're your people.
And I think you guys hit it on the head. Like the way he approaches it, he brings his personality, and it's imprinted on everything that happens at the conference. He's looking for ways to have fun. He invented a term, connect date. Just basically is what he wants to happen at Spark, and he generates ways for that to happen, and it shows in everything that the conference does.
So what are you talking about? You're going to do a feature thing later today.
Sure.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Would it give us a little sneak peek? You don't have to spoil it.
So I've got 2 this afternoon. One is a workshop, and it's a project I've been working on called GameStorm EDU. You can go to GameStormEDU.com, free marketing for me right now, and you can check out the resources. But the idea is kind of walking through the design process. So it's kind of design thinking and creating a game. And it's trying to demystify that for educators and students because it's an intimidating thing to do. And so we like to start, just with let's talk about how you could reskin a game. Let's talk about how you could remix a game. And kind of do that. And then the other one that I'm doing is one I really love doing. It's just really fun. It's kind of a high-energy session. It's called Thinking Outside the Docs. And it's all these tricks you can do in slides and drawings.
Very cool. Talked a little bit about this before.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Wild.
Nice. Yeah, and it's just, I turn it into a contest. So every little skill I show them, it's a contest. They submit it. And then I kind of pick some winners. So people like it because there's prizes and they get to do some fun kind of goofy stuff during the session.
And yesterday I was in your session, the karaoke one. What's the title of that?
Yeah, that one's called Creating Karaoke Kids.
Creating Karaoke Kids.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you right now, the beginning of that session, that is what a beginning of a session should be, which is really high energy, participant driven. And then using what just happened, that experience throughout your whole session to basically theme it out. Yeah, fantastic, totally. Man. It was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's I think that's really good if your session can have a metaphor, like I was just sitting in your session, Glenn, and you had like this metaphor of kind of like the launch, right? The brand ed, but you had this kind of like space theme of like, we're all kind of these educators floating in space. But if you find your tribe, you find your people, you can connect up and you hop in that ship and you kind of launch yourself a little bit, so to speak. That came through, and that was the goal of karaoke. Like, we need to have our students, sharing at a young age to understand how tough that is and respect others who do it. And
Love it.
we're gonna have a good, we're gonna promote the kind of interactions we want online, just like you do at a karaoke party. Sans the alcohol in K-12, of course.
Yes, of course.
Yep.
Yes.
So what's going on? What do you got? Plug something. Tell us what you're doing. What's new? What's new in Jon Spike land?
I just want to tell you guys, you're a big influence for one of the things I just started. So being on the podcast, just seeing like your guys' life at conferences, it's so cool. You guys connect with all these people, and it doesn't matter if they're Joe Teacher who maybe just fired up a Twitter account, or they're, doing a feature or keynote or whatever it is. I just love seeing you guys run the podcast. And I said, I would love to do something like that. And I've been listening to humorous podcasts. I love funny podcasts.
Yeah, sure.
You guys are just naturally humorous gentlemen. But I was like, what if it's just a podcast about funny stuff that happens to us as educators?
Yeah.
So it's called Laugh Ed Podcast, laughedpodcast.com. Free plug again. Yeah.
That'll be $200.
Yeah, I'm going to have to buy ad space on here. That'd be
That's
interesting.
laughedpodcast.com.
Powered by Squarespace. Are you guys going to have to cut that? Uh-oh, sorry.
No, we're okay.
But yeah, the idea was just, some funny thing, like, teachers tell stories from when their time teaching, when they were students in a classroom. And then we do a little improv game at the end, inspired by a game we actually, Mike, you and I played together. We were on a team. It's called Silicon Valley Startups.
Love it.
It's a remix of that game, but for teaching a ridiculous situation.
Oh,
Very
I need a
cool.
piece of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We'll get you guys on the show
podcast.
for sure.
Oh, yes.
You got to do it separately because you have to have more content.
yes.
Right?
Definitely.
So 2 episodes
Yeah.
is better than 1.
Yeah, and I think we can both agree you guys have a terrible rapport together, so I wouldn't want you on at the same time. Okay, I kid. No, you guys are
hashtag brand ed.
there you go.
More
Yeah.
content is king.
Yep.
Yeah,
Folks.
that is true.
Hot tip.
Yep.
So there you go. Jon Spike, everyone. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to OnEducation. My name is Mike Washburn. My co-host is Glen Irvin. Want to get in touch with us? Check out our website at OnEducationPodcast.com. You can tweet us at OnEducationPod. Glen is at Irv Spanish on Twitter. I can be found on Twitter at Mr. Washburn. You can find us on Facebook by visiting facebook.com/OnEducationPod. We're also on Instagram at OnEducationPod. If you're enjoying the show and think others would too, we'd be thrilled if you shared it with them. Please leave us a rating or review in Apple Podcasts or on the Google Play Store. When you leave a rating, it gives our rankings a boost. This helps others discover the show. We want to thank our presenting sponsor, Classcraft, for supporting us. Check out classcraft.com/OnEducation to learn more about them. Thanks as always for listening. Stay awesome. See you soon.